This episode brought to you by Totino's pizza rolls that my wife made. She warned me that they were hot, but I didn't listen.
This is HOTDROP, where in the past I have brought you premier PUBG analysis all by myself. But now, as we enter what I'm calling Season 2 of HOTDROP, I thought it's time to change up the format a little bit. For years, I've wanted to do a podcast on some kind of topic with a co-host, specifically Cody, who has been my good friend from childhood. You'll probably recognize him because I introduced him to PUBG and did an interview with him in a previous episode. So I'm happy to announce that Cody will be joining me as a full-time co-host as we grow this show and take it to the next level. So welcome, Cody.
Thank you, and thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited because up until now, I've never really been able to put my finger on what I want this show to be. But I've always known from day one that I wanted it to be a show where there was discussion and it was more of a podcast, like an audio kind of podcast. So I'm happy that we can sort of do that, but also have the visual elements and also the gameplay analysis that we have done in the past. So I want to keep that, but also have this new exciting dynamic. And being able to talk to someone is great because up until now, it's always been me talking to no one. So this is going to be fun.
And I think what's really cool about all of this is that when you and I play together, we always end up having this analysis and talking about it as we're playing. And now we'll be able to just kind of throw that into these videos and really have that discussion out there for everybody else to hear.
Yep. And I think along with that, we can announce that we are going to start streaming very soon.
Yes,
I'm going to have my own channel. Cody will have his own channel. And we're going to try to get this thing on a schedule. I know in the past I've sort of said it was a weekly podcast. I've stuck to that, and then I've completely dropped off at times. But now we're going to actually stick to it and really take this thing to the next level. I think we've built a solid foundation as we've evolved through the past, multiple months. But I really want to get on a legitimate schedule and also sprinkle in some live streaming so you guys can join us live, and then we can chat with our viewers and connect with you guys that way.
We were kind of discussing what would be our best option to move forward now that we're kind of splitting these duties together. And I think that we both decided that splitting it between YouTube and streaming on Twitch, that we would have this dynamic of being able to do our in-game analysis and then play and be able to interact with people in real time. It would just kind of add a different layer to this whole discussion and gameplay analysis portion of the game.
Yeah, and I think it sort of is all set up to be this, right? Because in the past I've had my regular episodes where it's mostly news and some opinions, and then I would have in between those somewhat regularly scheduled episodes, I would do hot drop episodes where I would play and discuss my decision making. So I think that is something we can easily transition to Twitch. So I could live stream, I can discuss my decisions live, I can interact with viewers, because that's what I wanted the hot drop episodes to always be. But then I also wanted to talk about news and analysis. But if you try to do both, it doesn't really work. But now I think this is a time where we can sort of, make it what it should have been from day one. And
yeah, it's a full community. We're aiming for a full community within this game, not just the Reddit users who are going to sit there and give their opinion about how they feel about the game, and not the YouTube viewers who just want to see good kills and then some gameplay analysis. This is kind of all of it. We get to have our show, and then we get to have our stream where people can interact with us however they see fit, and it will keep everybody entertained.
Right. And then maybe one day we'll do a live show, and this will be a live show, and then we can stream on top of that. But for now, I think this is going to be a good transition to keep our YouTube audience and then also build a following on Twitch. And like you said, make it a community. So I'm really excited.
Sure.
Really excited.
Me too, man.
All right, so to kick off our inaugural episode where I have finally a co-host and I'm not just talking to myself, we're going to see what Cody is all about. So here's some really hot takes. I want one-sentence answers for all of these questions. Are you ready?
Ooh, yes, so ready.
Cody, what is your ideal airdrop?
My ideal airdrop contains a level 3 vest because those are super hard to find. And I don't like any of the weapons that fall in the airdrops, to be fair.
What is the best weapon/attachment combo in your opinion?
Ooh, sweet. I really, really enjoy a silenced M16 with a 2x scope and a silenced M4 with a 4x scope and all attachments tag stock work grip.
Does clothing belong in the game as a lootable item?
Yes.
Crossbow, pick it up or no?
Never.
Least favorite vehicle?
Trike.
Motorcycles, awesome or no?
Regular motorcycle, awesome, and Erangel.
Red dot or holographic?
Ooh, red dot.
Red dot or 2x?
Ooh, 2x.
2x or 4x?
4x on an M4, 2x on an M16.
Ump or vector?
Ump.
Tommy gun or ump?
Ump.
What's your go-to sidearm?
Go-to
Shotgun
sidearm
or
is
SMG? Sorry, I meant secondary weapon.
Oh, yes. SMG.
Go-to sidearm for pistol.
It's that new pistol, man. It's nice.
It's nice, that revolver. I like that. Shotguns, overpowered or no?
Are they overpowered?
Are
Yes,
they overpowered?
they are. Yeah.
One weapon and one attachment to remove from the game completely, and across both maps.
Oh, the old revolver.
Yes.
Get rid of.
Thank you.
And one attachment as well.
Yes.
I think that the distinction between bullet loops is stupid.
Yes, I love that. Good answer. And that's what it's all about.
That's nice. I like that.
Nice little intro to
That was
Cody.
fun.
So we can
I
kick
didn't
this
know
thing
that
off.
that was coming. Just so everyone knows, that was fun.
Out of nowhere. Didn't have any time to think about it. Rapid fire. That's what we do. We hot dropped. Love it.
HOTDROP.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. So let's jump into some news. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about the Xbox launch, but it did happen on December 12th. There was a little bit of drama, as there always is with video games. PlayerUnknown initially announced that it would be running at 60 frames per second.
Huh?
Yeah, right. And then he backtracked and said, oh, just kidding, it'll actually run at 30, but it really runs between 20 and 30, maybe dipping down into the teens at times. So I know that there's some discontent among the Xbox players, but the good news is they are getting updates regularly. They're already getting multiple updates to specifically the Xbox client, so that's great to see. They've added like a separate channel in their official Discord where they specifically talk about the Xbox side of things. So they're really separating it and they're making it a different game because it is a different game.
And I think it's got a different following as well. I think that the people
does.
who have put their time and effort into this since what was it, last April, this is a bigger deal at some level, and I think that the people who are playing it on console have already admitted, like, yes, this is a pretty cool game, but the people on PC obviously have it way better. There's more of a following, obviously, but there's also more promise to the future of the game.
Yeah. I mean, this console release, and I wish I had the numbers, and hopefully we'll see some soon. I do know that he just announced that they have sold 30 million copies across all platforms. But as I want to see the numbers of the individual users on Xbox versus PC, because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a massive amount of console players coming in, and which is great for the game because that shows that it'll get more people into it. It'll get the game into people's living rooms. Parents will be talking about it. Like it'll just keep growing and growing. And that affects the PC version too. So like I don't think anyone should complain about an Xbox version or there should be any kind of, Xbox versus PC because it is the same game. Like let's be real that it's great for the game if it gets to all different kinds of platforms.
Right. And I know what we were talking that we were discussing yesterday, like were we going to hit those 3 million concurrent players, and they didn't quite get there, but you're not going to reach those numbers on the Xbox. You're just not. I just don't think it's there.
You don't think it's there to get to 3 million specifically for Xbox?
Yeah, I don't know. Not at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah, I would be really curious to see because I don't think Microsoft publishes numbers of who's playing what. But I do know that there's way more Xbox and console players than there are PC players in general.
I think in terms of the game itself, I think that this just has more of a following on PC, and I think that obviously in like the Call of Duties and things like that, you're going to hit those numbers no problem.
Yeah.
With PUBG, I think it was easier for PC players to go $30, sure, and then go, oh, this is pretty awesome. I can't wait to see where it goes. Where the Xbox, it's not the same. You don't get people that do that,
Yeah, I think one thing too is that if you know nothing of this game, right, and then you download PUBG on your Xbox because you saw it on, the Xbox store and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. You know nothing about it going into it. You download the game, you play it. You're probably thinking it's a laggy piece of shit because it's
Yeah.
just not ready yet. Like, it is not done. So if they don't have the perspective we have of seeing how it was back in the alpha days to now to see how much it has grown, like, we probably look at this game with rose tinted glasses, right? Because we think how great it is now, but it still has so far to go
Yep.
versus an Xbox player who gets in now and thinks it's a total crappy game because, there's so many elements broken still and so much lag and it just runs like crap. So
Yep.
I think that affects how people view the game, but that's if people are just coming in fresh with a new mindset or a no mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention about Xbox when I was talking about the updates that they are getting specifically for that client, I saw an update today, a patch note saying that the recoil has been toned down across the board for every weapon on the Xbox version of PUBG.
Really.
Yeah. So it looks like they're responding to feedback and to how difficult the game is because it's pretty hard to control a full auto spray with a mouse and keyboard, and I imagine it's a lot harder with the controller. So it's interesting to see, and we're going to have to pay attention to this as they go forward, those big changes like that are really going to affect core gameplay on the Xbox versus PC. Let's see how much they start, shifting apart. Because you think about a lot of shooters on an Xbox and on other consoles have like aim assist, or like Call of Duty, if you just hold the left trigger, it just snaps your aim to the next guy on your screen.
Right. Right.
So yeah, let's see if they start doing that because that'd be pretty interesting to see if they start like I said, separating the games based on ease of use features.
Well, that even speaks to the way that they. I don't want to use the word nerf because it's probably not fair to be. It seems like they're nerfing the game a little bit for consoles because it's harder to play on PCs, or it's harder to play on console with the concepts that they're using for a PC game.
Yeah, right.
Looting totally hard.
Inventory
Apparently
management.
for
Yeah.
the Xbox, it's really tough to do that, and so they're like, "Yep, you got to take some time," but the game then moves slower. You know what I mean? So like if you drop down into Pachinki or the school or whatever, and you're trying to loot up, maybe everybody's fighting there with pistols there for a while until it's low enough numbers where you can actually maintain your inventory without getting killed.
Yeah, you can't run in, hit tab, drag something over as fast as you can.
Right.
On
And
the
even
PC.
people like me who have slower computers compared to you,
Hmm.
that's hard for me to manage my inventory when you guys are ready and looted up and I'm trying to click, and it doesn't register, and then I have to do that. And so imagine what that's like on the Xbox for everybody who's running on the same system,
Right,
not being able
and
to tab click.
and at way less frames per second too.
Oh god, yeah.
So yeah, it's got to be a difficult experience. But I wish I had an Xbox to try it out on, but I don't have one. I'm a PS4 guy, so yeah. Hopefully we can hear from you guys. Any comments about your experiences playing it on Xbox? I don't know if we have any viewers who are playing it on the console now, but I would love to hear people's feedback about that.
Me also.
So I think we can move on. The next thing we wanted to talk about was the PC launch on December 20th, which is 2 days ago.
Which nobody really got to play until the 21st, to be fair.
That's true. Yeah.
But
Big
it seems
downtime.
that they did the 7-hour maintenance to launch it, and then everybody melted the servers,
Yeah.
and then once we all got on, it was the 21st already.
Right. Yeah, there was
But
something
I
like a
will
7 hour
say,
downtime.
I got to play before you got to play.
Hmm.
I didn't work that day, and it was so much better than I had actually anticipated it to be. The game obviously still needs work. It's version 1.0. We're going to get updates still about everything all the time, but it was generally optimized. It looked a lot cleaner, that's the first thing I said. I was like, it's very pretty. It's a lot nicer than it had been. I'm running at a higher frame rate. But the map, being able to know what you're getting now, I guess. The rubber banding issue was kind of taken away. These are all just kind of high points. Obviously, we have our list of things to talk about, but it was just super nice to be able to jump into a game that is considered no longer broken.
Yeah. I mean, there are some broken pieces, and we're going to talk about some things. But overall, like just seeing the growth is awesome, and seeing the game finally leave early access. Like, how many early access games have people seen? I know you're not, you don't have a huge background in PC games, but so many early access games never get actually released. So it's pretty cool to see that they followed through and everything they said. You know, they said they were going to do replays. We got replays. You know, they said they were going to tweak the weapons and add new ones and add a new map. We got everything that they said they
Remember
were
how
going to
long
do.
we waited for vaulting?
Yeah, and they delivered it. They said they were going to be by the end of the year, and we got it by the end of the year. So that's pretty crazy that they were able to follow through and everything.
Go Blue Hole.
Yeah. Or PUBG Corp now, technically. I
Oh
think.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
No
A
more
division
B-hole.
of Blue Hole.
I like B-hole. All right, so yeah, let's talk about some of the changes. The first being the big one, the new map. So,
I
what are your
love
initial
that map.
impressions? Yeah.
I love Miramar, so I think that I struggled a lot jumping into this game because it was the first PC game I'd ever played, and being an Erangel, it was very difficult because there are so many different play styles across a relatively, let's say it's rolling map. There's not a whole lot of traversing anything, and you can see pretty far distances, and you can spot people kind of all over. Going into Miramar, though, it is a whole new ball game, and I feel like everybody who was great in Erangel still had to go, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of jump in and you don't know where to go, and you don't know where their version of the school is, or their version of Georgia Pole is, or Pachinki. And so you're kind of guessing where these loot spots are. And that made me feel really good because now I'm starting to hone in my skills, and I got to jump into a map and be essentially on an equal playing field with
Yeah,
everybody else.
that's a very good point. Yeah. And I think a lot of people who are veterans of Erangel are thinking that I want to go to the school, I want to get in, I want to go to the place where everyone's going to be and get in some fights right away. But no one knows where that is, like you said.
Even
But
now, we still don't really know where it is.
yeah, right.
We found a couple of places where we're like, no one's going to be here, and there are 20
There's still
people
people.
there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that makes it that much more fun to play, not knowing who's going to be where or what
Yeah.
you're going to find.
And that's the thing I wanted to say because I've seen some of the opposite reactions from people where they think the map is much more slow. But people seem to forget that when they started playing PUBG for the first time, like no one knew that the school was like the hotspot, right? That didn't just,
Right.
but wasn't
Yeah.
that way automatically. It's a central location on the map, but so are a lot of other places too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get the action that the school does. And now it's sort of like a meta, like we don't have that yet. And people are just saying that, oh, this map is much slower and I don't really know where to go to fight people. But you just got to be patient. You got to wait and see what develops.
That's
far as,
why
like,
I
where
feel like
people
when you
go.
and I have these conversations sometimes, you will have those, like, I've kind of made up my mind, like we were talking about traversing vehicles. So let's jump to that bullet already.
Yeah, sure.
We were talking about traversing the terrain in vehicles and things like that. And like, Admiral Zakbar, a guy we play with, he's already made up his mind. He hates the VW bus, hates it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really enjoy the VW bus because I like to take my time and move more strategically. Whereas like Dano and Admiral Zakbar, they want to go fast. They want to get there. They want to do stuff. And so like I really like that van because we do get to move slower and we get to pick our places, and it has it's the toughest. And so people can shoot at us all they want, and they don't usually hit you
Yeah.
or damage the vehicle as much. I have only seen two of us get knocked out of the van so far, but anytime we've used a buggy, obviously there's virtually no cover there, or the Bronco even. It just, they're less safe than the van is when you're playing squads.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. The one thing I hate about the vehicles is just how slow they move up a hill. Like regardless of what the terrain is, say if you found a VW and you're at the bottom of a hill, even if you boost, like it takes forever. And that's just how I am. Like I like to go fast. I like to move on to the next thing quickly.
And so actually going back to what my original point was, is like with the vehicles, you and Zach have already made up your minds about these particular things where I'm going, okay, what are the possibilities that we have now?
Mm-hmm.
How is this game different in this map that it's not the same in Erangel?
Mm-hmm.
Which gives us a whole new viewpoint to play. Notice how like when we play in squads, we never play the same way in Erangel that we do in Miramar ever. we end up finding we loot and loot and loot in Erangel, and then we get mad when we get shot. Whereas in Miramar, I feel like we always end up going, "Who has enough? Let's go."
Yeah, and
Like
I think that's
who's got a weapon? Who's got a couple of bandies? Let's roll. Where we end up getting caught up on Miramar that we never have in Erangel is you don't know where people actually are. You're not going to hear them until they're next to you
yeah.
because there could be a 20-foot drop on the other side of the building and they've come around the corner and you have no way out.
Mhm.
Or you don't hear them come up over the ridge, or they're sitting up above the ridge from, 100 yards away that you don't have any clue, and they can pick you up with a 4x.
Yep.
So it's just a totally different game, and you need to get out and find people.
Yep. And I think what I wanted to say, because I rudely interrupted you, was just because the buildings, like all the buildings are so different now, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not as cookie cutter as before, that you don't have that set loot path. Like you usually
Yeah.
in Erangel, like run up to a building, you know exactly what the floor plan of the house is to navigate it in the most efficient way to grab all of the potential loot in that house.
Yep.
But now, like, I don't even know. Like, there's a lot of buildings where you have doors that lead into the same room. Like, you have multiple entrances
Yeah.
to the same room, and that's very confusing for me.
Think about how much time you waste going
Yeah.
through 4 doors when you only needed to go through two.
Yep. So many times I open a door and all of a sudden I'm looking at outside and I'm like, oh shit, like what? I thought this was the
Mm-hmm.
door to the building or to the room next door, but it's not. It's actually to exit the building. So, but along with that, you still have vaulting, and that's built into this map in a much better way than it is in
Sweet,
Erangel.
sweet, sweet vaulting.
Yeah. Because you now have windows and windows that are, waist high and just waiting for you to jump through them in so many different buildings. Like you have very obvious entry points. You have crates that are stacked up on top of each other to get
Mm-hmm.
to roofs. Like everything is built with vaulting in mind, and that's the biggest difference I think between Erangel and Miramar.
And I think talking about all this vaulting and things like that. So initially, when I think Erangel, we're shooting in. I want to go to Pachinki. North side of Pachinki is always, where I'd like to go. You land on that roof. You go down through the roof. You clear the whole house. If you go to Erangel and you go, I'm heading to this roof. You land on that roof and you go, oh, there's literally nothing here.
Mm-hmm. And no way to get
There's no way to get down. You have a broken stairway, and so
Yep.
now you have to go down halfway of a stairway and then vault off.
Yep.
And then you have to start at the bottom floor on the other side of the building because there's no way in on that side. And so they've changed this. They know who does what in Erangel, I think, and go, okay, how can we make that the complete opposite on this map so that people feel like they're getting a totally different experience even though they're playing the same game?
Yep. And they nailed it because now you have, think of a rectangle with four sides, a door on each side, but now you have maybe two more windows on each side too. So there's
Mm-hmm.
so many ways to enter and exit a house that it makes for pretty intense fights because you hear the glass break, but you have no idea where the enemy is coming from.
And we keep hearing glass break during game and go, that was me.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a new mechanic
yep.
for sure. Yeah.
Yep. And also, speaking of all these windows, people were talking about how all these buildings and things like make a really good environment for camping, and I would totally disagree with that. I think that the amount of windows keeps people in check, and so like if I'm going into a building and I'm trying to loot, I am keeping an eye out outside of that building so I can pick a fight with people. And whenever we come up on a building, I am looking in all of those windows to see who's hanging out. And so we've had at least 3 or 4 just mid-range gunfights from a building, even if your intention isn't to sit there and camp. So I think that people are becoming really aware that they can't just hang out into a building because you're going to have to get into a firefight with somebody because all those buildings are big, all those windows are big.
Mhm.
People are going to be able to see you from, down the street or whatever.
I would counterpoint and say something like because we have these new floor plans and a lot of people don't know the layout of houses yet, I think it puts people that are in houses right now at a really good advantage because if I see someone in a window, I don't know quite yet the best way to approach the house to go get them. But I think this is only a temporary thing. I think
That's a really good point, actually.
yeah.
If you're thinking about, it's not even with the intention of camping.
Yes.
That's a tactical approach. If I'm in a building and you see me in that building, I could be looting, I could be healing my buddy, whatever. You don't have a good way to approach from the north side if I'm facing south.
Right.
Um,
I
that
don't
makes a
know the
really good point.
best logical path to get to you the quickest way versus
Es-
Erangel that I've played for
Especially,
hours. I know how to get to you.
yeah, especially thinking about what we were just saying about how it's harder to get into certain buildings and knowing which like doors lead to where, because there's that one type of building that we keep going to that is completely blocked off and you can't get in.
Is that
You know
a
which one
house
I'm
building?
talking about?
I don't
It's
know.
no, it's like a red building, and I've noticed that every one of us keeps walking up to it thinking we're going to get in, and we keep just going around because the next thing that's next to it is like a yellowy type building with a pool table in it.
Oh yeah, I think I know
I'll,
what you're talking
I'll
about.
point it out to you later, but
Yeah.
if you're in that building next to you, you would think that you get to go in through the second building and go up in, but it's you cannot get in from one side, so it's
Hmm.
always blocked off on the easiest side to get in.
Yep. And these are the things that we are just figuring out. And then
Yeah.
give us 100 more hours and we'll have this map down. We'll know every
Hmm.
bit of it. But right now, I think it plays so much differently because so many people just don't understand how to play it yet. And
Yeah.
it makes sense.
And speaking of things that we haven't figured out yet, that's the loot spots. Knowing how much is where and what's going to be the best.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I've been testing out lately. Um, there's that ruins up in the top northwest corner of the map that I just really wanted to check out, and it turns out that if you have two people, you're probably pretty good for loot up there.
Hmm.
It's way out of the way. There are not a lot of vehicles to get to the circle if you don't get in there and start moving. We figured that out ourselves. Like it took us a long time to just find a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then we even found that some of those cities have crap loot. If you don't find an area that has like a church or whatever, you might not find a whole lot of stuff, and you think it's a pretty dense area. Um, and then we find places like the mine, which turned out to be a literal gold mine when
Yeah.
it came to looting for a whole squad if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Honestly, if there were four people playing, you could probably get everybody a primary weapon. 3 to 2 people playing, you're guaranteed to be a fully kitted team.
Yeah. I love
Um,
how it's not mapped, it's not named on the map.
it's not named, it's not there, and I've only seen like 5 or 6 other people ever drop there. And people, once they find that out, you can have some pretty cool fights in there. There's a really nice catwalk in there. There are 2 tunnel pieces that connect to the other spots. There's a lot of stuff to hide behind, and the loot is pretty difficult to find. But we've always found a level 3 helmet when we go there.
Hmm.
So somebody's bound to get like a scar and a level 3 helmet, and probably a scope or two.
Yeah, I think they thought about what they had done with the shelter at Erangel. So
Yeah.
previously, before this is way a long time ago, before they had names on the map for the shelter, we just called it military tunnels, and no one knew it was there. And you could usually get enough loot for 2 to 4 people. But then once they marked it on the map, everyone started going there. So I'm really happy that they did this way this time. They realized they shouldn't mark it on the map because it's a really cool thing for people to find. And if you just give people all of the names of everything and tell them exactly where to go, like it kind of takes some joy out of it. Like I kind of
Yeah,
like
it really does.
the
And
excitement of
this
finding
only
something new.
has. I didn't mean to
No,
talk
it's all
over
right.
you.
That was it.
Um, I think that we've found in this map is we're still one. It's more difficult to say the names, only because you don't know how to reference them in terms of their usefulness.
Hmm.
And so like if you go to what is it, Los Leones, um, we don't know how useful that place is yet. So we'll always kind of add an inflection at the end, like Los Leones.
Leones.
There might be some people there or some stuff to do.
Yeah.
Um, but now we know we have found. Hey, let's go to the mines. We can figure it out after that.
Yeah.
Um, because that we have found out how useful that is to us in the kind of game we want to play, which is if we want to go to the mines and we want to fight people off or get those crates, you
Hmm.
know that the airdrops are going to be super easy to get if you stop at those mines first.
Hmm.
Um, which the airdrops are really easy, or not easy, super unpredictable in this map than they were in Erangel.
Yeah. So I think that kind of leads us into the next point. Actually, before we do that, I do want to say that you heard it here first. I think Hacienda del Patron is the new school. I
Ooh,
think that's the new school because
I would agree.
it's so many concentrated loot spots. You got the
All
upper and lower floors. You got inside outside stuff going on. I think it's the new school. Like we landed there and got so much good loot there.
That was crazy.
I think it was us versus two or three other teams. I think two
Um,
teams.
to be fair, I died early.
We cleaned it up in your honor though. We
Yeah, you
powered
did. You
through.
avenged my death.
And we ended up leaving there with level 2 or 3 everything, all the guns we wanted, 2 Car 98s. Twice we landed there and got 2 Car 98s. So I think that's the new hotspot. But moving on, you were talking about airdrops.
Airdrops. So in
Yeah.
this, if you're in Erangel, airdrops are always a fight. You see an airdrop,
Yes.
you
Every time.
know that there are going to be people that are fighting you, and you need to roll in, pick it up, and get out, or wait to camp and kill those people and take their stuff.
Yep.
Miramar is the exact opposite, and there seem to be more drops that you stumble upon that have not been
Yes.
touched.
Yes.
And I have a theory about this. My theory is that people are afraid because it is such an open air map that there is always a vantage point to shoot you from, and that they're not touching them, and they don't want to move because they're a little bit afraid to go out into the open like that. And like we've talked about before, it's harder to traverse things. And so if you're in a squad and you're running with a Bronco or a VW van, it's going to take you some time to get to one of those drops if it's up on a hill or in the middle of a field. And I think that people are just saying, we'll worry about that later.
Mm-hmm.
We can't move out of our spot. We're in a good spot right now.
Yep. I think the other thing. Oh, sorry. Did you have more?
No.
Okay. I was going to say, I think the other thing about airdrops are because the terrain is so vertical and, bumpy, there's so many little ridges that you never, if you're far away from the airdrop, it's really hard to tell where exactly it landed. And even when it does finally land in smokes, you usually can't see it from very far away. So I think that's another reason that we keep stumbling upon these airdrops that no one has gotten, because people just lose them. Like you can't find them. And then when you finally do, the smoke has gone away and it's really hard to spot. But I think that makes it more exciting because I've found myself getting a whole lot more airdrops on this map than at Erangel.
So many. And a lot of them are snipers.
Yeah, which is also a crucial thing for the map.
Yeah, a lot more snipers, but with less scopes.
Yeah.
Notice that?
Totally
there are
chance,
a lot less
but it
scopes.
seems like that way, yeah.
But it seems that.
Yeah.
Because we're always going like, who has a scope, who doesn't have a scope. Oh crap, I'm rolling with a 4X and I have this gun that needs an 8 or whatever.
Yeah, so I think we can roll into our next point, which is talking about the difference in the overall outdoor fighting dynamic for Erangel versus Myanmar. So if you've played this game at all in the past couple months, that the end battle comes down to who has the better tree. But that's no longer the case because there's so many fewer trees. So I think that this is what they were going for. And I've thought a lot about this because I think that they wanted to get away from that peek out, shoot, find cover, peek out, shoot, find cover dynamic, because now we don't have any trees. And they had to figure out a way to make the end battles, play out in a fun and also give people cover when they have none, when they think they have none. So because the terrain is so rocky and so bumpy, like you can hide and lay down in all of these little alcoves and all of these little hills.
The
alcoves. That, you can't do that in Erangel as much. And like they needed to find a way. So we have no trees. What's the best way to make it so that the fights are still exciting and still give people cover? That's why the terrain is so bumpy.
And it was wonderful. Last night we had a couple of those super close games where you're staring straight up in the air trying to fire at the last 3 people alive, and you can back down 5 feet and they can't see you. But
Exactly.
it's a game of like whack-a-mole at that point, and it's super fun, and it brings back that adrenaline that you got when you first started to play.
Yep, because they can come at you from different angles. You can come at them from different angles. I think the end circles where we always say, oh, let's go to the short side towards the gas where it's, the tighter circle. Like that's more important now, I think, because
and
previously
you don't see
you
a
could
lot
just
of
run
people
straight
doing
into
that
it.
still.
Yeah, no, you don't.
I don't know why that's not a tactic used by almost everybody. Is you move to that short side of the circle because people won't think anybody's going to come from outside. They always think like they're dead in the gas if they're coming from that side.
Exactly.
We've gone straight from north to south just to get behind somebody before.
Yep. And versus the old map, usually you could just run straight into the circle because you have the cover of the leaves of the trees from the distance, and you know where the rocks and the trees are. But now there's none of that. So if you just run to the middle of the circle in the new map, you're going to get shot because there's people are going to see you from, no matter if you're at the high ground or the low ground, people are going to find you because you can spot people from a very
You
long
just look like
distance.
a big black dot running down a
Yeah.
sand dune.
Yep. Yep. So I think the visibility is so much better, but the terrain being so much rockier makes up for that and gives you places to hide. You just have to play it differently. It's a different map and with different strategies, and people are still figuring them out. But that's the fun part of a new map is like you don't know what to do. You don't know what the best strategy is yet.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's a pretty cool way to make up for the lack of trees is just to make it more rocky terrain. I think that's what
for
they were
sure.
thinking here. So what else? Scopes we talked about briefly. I think
We
they're very
talked
important
about
to this map now. So much
yeah.
more important.
Well, we talked about the VW bus a little bit, but we really haven't talked about the rest of the vehicles.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to mention are there are new vehicles. If you've played the map, you know that there's a VW bus because we talked about it. High HP, not so great off road, pretty slow, but it's built like a tank. It's like Cody said, difficult to pick people off from a distance with it because you're mostly covered up by the side panels and the walls of the car.
The windows are pretty small.
The windows are
You
small.
can't shoot
Yeah.
through them. Yeah,
I don't. We have to test this. So if you shoot the side of a door, the bullet doesn't penetrate the door, right? Like you don't get damaged, right?
correct.
So you
You,
only have to shoot through the window.
correct.
Yeah. What else we
Um,
got? You can take this.
my
We got the aqua rail.
the shoe
The shoe.
it's like a Dutch wooden shoe. Um,
I am from Holland.
isn't that weird? The shoe kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Really pointless in Miramar. With your little river that you got going on there, just transport between the four little islands is all you've got.
Yeah, that's awful.
It's stupid. It doesn't really have that fast of a top speed. It's real jerky. Um,
And it just
what?
the model is just so crappy. Like I don't know. It
Yeah.
looks like they really phoned it in. I mean, just make it a jet ski or something. I don't know. It looks stupid. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it's not super cool, but that's really all we have to say about that.
Yeah,
The Bronco, though, the Bronco is my homie. I like the Bronco.
I want one
Um,
IRL.
yeah, it's they said that they had changed the gas mileage on it, like the fuel efficiency got a little bit better because it did suck gas there for a while. But
Suck
it,
gas.
I like the way that it handles on certain terrains differently. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
So if you're in a field, you're literally fishtailing all over the place. But if you're on the rocks and things like that, it slows down, but you get good traction. And on the roads, it speeds up pretty quickly. So like, I like how much detail and effort they put into the Bronco, and it's really good, a really really good squad vehicle, especially if you can get a covered one.
Yeah, definitely. I like how it sits higher. That makes it go off road a
Yep.
little bit better over those really steep
Mhm.
bumps. Because there's a lot of times in this map where you go off a pretty high cliff and your nose of your vehicle is pretty much pointed straight down. But because this one has a little bit more ground clearance, it sometimes catches the tires instead of damaging the vehicle when it hits the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Dan, you wanted that special shout out to your new homeboy, the buggy.
My homeboy. I think the buggy makes no sense at Erangel, but it looks right at home at the new map. I think it's a pretty sweet car now. I mean, I hate sitting on the back of it, but it handles really good off road. I think it was built for this map. The new engine sounds awesome. Sweet racing skins, pretty sick. I look like a badass. I had a game last night actually where someone was rolling up to me on a buggy and I was able to pick him right off the back of it with one shot with the Car 98. So that's pretty satisfying going from the other direction, I would say. But yeah, no, I think it's a good fit for this map, and it's a lot easier to drive now. I think it's a lot easier to drive on this map because it handles so well off road.
I would agree, and I think that motorcycles are a lot more difficult to use in this map.
Yes,
I think that motorcycles, in my notes here, I wrote motorcycles are the devil, and you might as well run if you're not on a road.
Yep.
Especially if you're on a trike, you cannot get from point A to point B if you have to traverse anything. So you might as well run because the roads do not lead everywhere like they do on Erangel.
Yeah.
The roads seem to lead around everything.
Yes. Yeah,
And
that's
when
a good point.
Get to a city, there is no easy way in or out. And so if you're in a motorcycle, especially a trike, it makes it really tough, and you're going to have a really high turnover, rollover risk when you're doing that, especially if it's in a high stakes situation. So I like to stay away from them as much as I can in this map.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I think the one good thing about the motorcycles is one, they go so fast, which I got to go fast, and I think they're a high skill ceiling vehicle. I think if you have really mastered those air controls, like the Q to lean left, E to lean right, space
And
bar
the
to pitch
pitch.
up, yeah, if you can master that, you're gonna be a boss on this map when you fly around off road. But again, this game is just a little bit too sketchy still, and I don't trust it. I try to always let up the gas as much as possible when I'm going over a sketchy bump, but I think that if you get really good at mastering those controls, you're gonna be right at home on the motorcycle on any map. But for the average player, you're gonna be in a death trap, especially with a trike, because it does not land well if it goes off the ground.
Right.
Let's talk about the new weapons, Miramar specific
Weapons.
weapons. Kick it off. Take it away.
I'm actually going to start with the revolver.
Sure.
I hate the revolver in Erangel.
I don't
And
think anyone likes it. It's so
I would
bad.
make sweet, sweet love to this new revolver in Miramar. It is beautiful. It reloads super fast and it hits really hard. I would compare it sort of to a Magnum.
Yeah.
Like it's a real strong pop. You get it off, and your reload is essentially like you have a quick draw on it, even though you can't really add a quick draw. Reloads like 6 shooters all the way in. You take it and you go, and you can attach a red dot to it, and that's it. And that's what I really like about it. It's simple, it's fast, and it gets you through the early game. And usually I end up dropping my tertiary weapon, my sidearm. I keep that revolver with me every time.
Yeah, I like it a
I
lot
just think
too.
it's a really, really nice addition to the game.
Same. I mean, I wish I had more use for it because I like to say that it's good to carry a sidearm, but you really never switch to it
No, once you
unless you
find
run out of ammo.
your AR or
Yeah,
your sniper rifle, you never use it.
yeah. But it is a great sidearm to have. I think it's a pretty sweet gun just because it kicks so hard and it reloads fast. Winchester, huge fan. Huge fan. I think this is, like I said, the motorcycle is a high skill ceiling vehicle. I think this is a high skill ceiling weapon. You have to be really good at the iron sights because it doesn't take a sight. I think it's really good at medium to medium long range. There was one point where I was shooting at a guy with a Winchester and Lemon John was shooting at someone with the Car 98, and he said that he had to aim slightly higher to account for bullet drag, but I was hitting the guy straight on. This thing shoots like a laser beam. So I think it's because it's a marksman rifle. It's like it's a sniper rifle that you just can't put a scope on, essentially.
Hmm.
I think it's much better once they added the red tip to the front sight, but obviously would love to put a red dot or something on it just to make it a little better. The bullet loops have been a nice addition. You can reload it a little bit better. But this is a terrible, terrible weapon to have if you get caught off guard and
Oh
you
my
are in a
god, it's
close-up
so bad.
situation. Like you are dead.
Even after changing the lever action by 30%, it is still slow as hell. You would never be
Yeah,
able to make it out of a close encounter with it.
no way, unless you can land a headshot the very first time. But I think it's a good support weapon. So like if you're a sniper and you're in a squad, you can have the Winchester as like one of your primaries, and then you have everyone else running ARs. I don't think you want all of your squad to be using this weapon because you're going to be in a big world of hurt if you get an up close battle with someone else.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see it becoming a favorite of mine. It takes really common ammo, so that's a really great thing about it. So you can stock up on ammo really quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it takes people down in like 2 to 3 hits, which is a pretty powerful shot. I'd like to see what the data mined numbers are on this gun, but I'm a big fan so far.
And then we move on to our last one, really, which is the sawed-off shotgun.
Yep.
And I'm kind of in a love-hate relationship with this thing. I think it's a really great thing to be able to have and be able to carry as a sidearm. I think that was a really smart decision on their part to put this in the game that way. What I don't like is that the spread is very large and you can't add a choke onto it, and that it is a slow reload compared to the over-under shotgun as well. But I have gotten a couple of kills on it, but sometimes it's really unreliable. Last night we were in um, one of the bar areas, and I was standing over a guy and fired both
Oh yeah, that
shots
was at
into
the
him, and
hacienda.
I
Yeah,
didn't kill him. Yeah, I was at the hacienda, and I
yeah,
didn't kill him. But other times you hit him one time and you're good. So
yeah.
um,
I think it has a
it's just
huge spread. That's why.
yeah, it's just a little bit unpredictable, and but I do like to carry it early game. So
Yeah, yeah. It's a good early game for sure. I've gotten a couple kills early game with it. And it's good, like a good gun to finish off people with if they're already downed. I mean, that's we're gonna degrade this gun to that that role. But yeah, no, it's good for people who like shotguns. This allows you to have that shotgun while still having 2 ARs. So that's
For sure.
it's a pretty cool addition just because it's a pistol. But I still like the revolver the most out of any pistol, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. So yeah, I think this is all we really wanted to cover. I think this was
Yes,
a
the
good
first
long,
one in the books, man.
yeah, good long episode. I think we talked about a lot and had a lot of good points. One last thing to mention is that we are now on a regular schedule. We will have new episodes coming out every Tuesday night, and on top of that, we'll be streaming live every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. You can catch us live on Twitch at twitch.tv/HOTDROP_podcast.
If you guys like what you're seeing here in these videos, please like and subscribe. If you don't, I mean, that's cool too. Until then, we'll see you in game.